Okay, this is how I made Ruby and Sapphire from the Steven Universe series using Monster High dolls. I started out with Iris Clops. She's a Cyclops, which makes it really easy to do regarding Sapphire since we know she has one eye. I started out by taking their heads off and priming their bodies after removing everything with acetone. I used a product called Dulcot because that was the only option I had. I used an air gun and some acrylic paints to give them a really nice coat. And I kind of was bothered by the fact that they were naked, so I ended up making lingerie for them. So if for any reason somebody went under their clothes, they wouldn't be. That's after I rerouted all of their hair and had to redo the eyes because they chipped off. And there it is with the fringe completed and styled. Then I had to make them some clothes. Using the original Iris Clops doll, I took the pattern pieces apart and drafted my own pattern. You can see that I was working on making the bodice there, and after some trial and error, it turns out that it fits. She also has a tiny rhinestone on her hand, and there is the finished doll coming up now. I'm really proud of this. It's the first time I've ever worked on a Monster High doll. I did two of the Sapphires at the same time, and one of them and one of the Rubies was a gift for a friend. This is the reference image that I went off of for the Ruby. And those started out as an operetta and a Draculaura. I was having a hard time with this, and I watched a lot of videos. I ended up having some yarn around the house already that I thought would work pretty well for their hair. A big shout out and thank you to My Froggy Stuff, whose technique I used to do this. These dolls ended up getting the same body paint process. There's where I was testing how the hair would be, and I was super happy with it. I actually didn't fill in the full scalp. And again, I painted underwear on them and gave them a black band until I was ready to move on. Sapphire looks pretty surprised, I think. I had some challenges with painting their faces too because I thought that the industry standard for doing something like this was just using Prismacolor, but I was wrong, and you need watercolor pencils. Watercolor pencils are important, and they are the best, and watercolor pencils is bae, I guess. I don't know. I had a lot of fun doing this. I guess you can tell because there's a lot of candid shots. And Ruby finally has pants, even though the sequence of these pictures is kind of wonky. At this point, I was waiting for shoes to come in for the doll, and she has the right headband now. And there's the two Rubies with their two Sapphires and some tulle and a big box of pencils. I had a lot of trouble with the pants. I ended up making them out of spandex. And there they are. I was so happy once I got the tiny little tops for these Rubies done too. Even though the Sapphire ones came out pretty easily, the Rubies were a nightmare. I tried to use those Iris Clop boots to rebuild my own, but that unfortunately didn't work out. And there's a picture of Yellow Pearl's butt. That belongs there. The Rubies with their finished eyes. And there they are with the shoes drying. I know it looks weird, but I didn't want them to fall over, and I was super excited to get them on. And there was another trial and error with the Iris Clops boots that just simply didn't work out. But I finished them, and they were great. I ended up going to a print store, I think it was Office Max, and having an image from the answer printed out so I could make these couple of pictures. I was so proud of these. The dolls came out really, really well. And as you can see, love is the answer. I'm sorry, I'm probably made of corn chips. Anyway, once those were finally done, I started on yellow and blue pearl. I ended up starting out with a Cleo Denial, and I think that's Gulia. Anyway, that's how they started out, and that's definitely not how they finished. I ended up cropping off Gulia's hair first, and I felt so bad because I really liked how these dolls looked before I started on them. Their toes, since the pearls are ballerinas, I suppose, I ended up using an epoxy sculpt to give them sort of like a flat shoe instead of making shoes for them. I also gave them those wonderful pointy pearl noses that everybody loves. Bird Mom for the win! I also made little tiny wig caps for them, and you can see them there drying on top of the dolls. That's my workspace, and I did not enjoy that Taco Bell slushie. That thing was wonky, but the Dragon Ball made a good chair. Those are the acrylic paints that I ended up using for the face. I ended up liking Cleo Denial's face a lot better for Yellow Pearl because it kind of looked just mean and snide to begin with. As you can see, I'm going through and taking snapshots as I move along with the bodies. They both got painted with the airbrush as well. That's just a simple shot to show the bodice and the shape of the bodysuit. Those were painted directly onto these dolls. I ended up sanding off the underwear lines for these. It's hard to see there, but there's also the stocking for Yellow Pearl painted on, and the chest gems are finally added. I don't know what I was doing there. Oh, no, I see it now. I had added their shoes at that point. And I guess I was just drying them next to their heads because I was really excited for this project to be done. It was coming together so fast. So because Blue Pearl has hair covering her face, I ended up painting her so her eyes were shut because we don't actually know what they look like, or if she has two for that matter. That's bugging me. I used chiffon to make her skirt, and that's applied directly to her body. The same thing goes for Yellow Pearl, whose outfit was actually completely finished at that point, and I was so happy for that because it was so much simpler than Sapphire and Ruby. I had a lot of fun drying these guys on my space heater. Anyway, there's Yellow Pearl's snotty little face. I hate that character. I mean, I love her, but man, whenever we see her, she looks like she's got a serious attitude problem. And there's a big jump here because I ended up doing her hair really, really fast. I can't remember which YouTuber I followed the technique on, but everything that's on her head that's hair-related is made of yarn, and it was glued to that wig cap. At that point, I kind of jammed right into working on Blue Pearl, and that was it. They were done. Everything was great. I got to give them to my Pearl. She was happy. I took a bunch of candid photos. Woo! I really like Steven Universe, and I had a lot of fun doing these projects. As you can see, the fusion that was potentially going to happen here was not to Blue Pearl's liking.